promoting the culture of West Africa to the world. To the world. West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Monday to Sunday.
It's hard to explain, okay? But
All day. All year round.
it's so mysterious.
This is who we are.
This is who we are.
WADR.
WADR. Promoting dialogue.
Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM Dakar and around the world on WADR.org. Welcome to NEWSLINK. Here are the top stories. Ahead of the February 2024 elections in Senegal, President Sall affirms commitment to a free and transparent presidential poll. ECOWAS Chairperson President Bola Tinubu reiterates beneficial cooperation with Africa in his inaugural speech at the UN.
If this year's theme is to mean anything at all, it must mean something special and particular to Africa. We seek enhanced international cooperation with African nations to achieve the 2030 Agenda and Sustainable Development Goals.
A pressure group in Ghana fixed the country to meet at the Jubilee House on Thursday for a three-day demonstration against poor governance and corruption. And debate of moratorium on death penalty emerges among Gambians. Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
Here is Imo Edit with NEWSLINK.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Liberia and in Ghana. Ahead of the February 2024 general elections in Senegal, President Macky Sall says he will hand over power to a successor in April 2024, while affirming his commitment to ensure a democratic, free and transparent presidential poll takes place in the country. In his address to the Ordinary General Assembly of the United Nations, President Sall said, like previous ones, the elections will be democratic, free and transparent. In his farewell-like speech, Macky Sall notably thanked the member countries of the United Nations for their friendship and collaboration. He spoke through an interpreter.
Le 25 février 2024 se tiendra l'élection présidentielle.
The 25th of February 2024 will be the date of the Senegalese presidential election. Like those that have come before, it will be democratic, free, and transparent. And the 2nd of April, I will pass the power to my successor after 12 years at the head of our country. I would like to thank the member countries of our organization for their friendship and their cooperation. Being the voice of Senegal, creating and maintaining friendships in this Assembly of Nations, where our common efforts are towards our common goals, was a great honor for me. On behalf of the people of Senegal, I wish to express my gratitude to all my colleagues, and I ask them to welcome my successor with the same friendship and the same consideration. I will keep the same feelings of friendship and cordial respect for you all. I am confident that the Senegalese tradition of openness and dialogue will be that of my successor as he remains committed to the trusting friendships that unite our country and all the members of the United Nations.
Sera fidèle aux relations d'amitié confiantes qui unissent notre pays et tous les membres des Nations Unies.
President Macky Sall, who will leave power next April after serving 2 terms at the head of Senegal, is taking part in his last ordinary session of the United Nations General Assembly as head of state in New York. Well, still in New York, where the 78th session of the UN General Assembly is taking place, ECOWAS Chairperson President Bola Tinubu delivered his speech in early hours of Wednesday after other leaders, like U.S. President Joe Biden, had spoken. This year's theme of the Assembly is rebuilding trust and reigniting global solidarity, accelerating action on the 2030 Agenda and its sustainable development goals towards peace, prosperity, progress, and sustainability for all. Tinubu in his inaugural speech highlighted a number of issues faced by Africa that he says require collective and harmonized drive to overcome. He went on to present a 5-point roadmap.
If this year's theme is to mean anything at all, it must mean something special and particular to Africa. We seek enhanced international cooperation with African nations to achieve the 2030 Agenda and Sustainable Development Goals. There are 5 points I want to highlight. First, global institutions, other nations, and their private sector actors must see Africa as a development priority. Second, we must affirm democratic governance as the best guarantor of sovereign will and well-being of the people. Military coups are wrong. This brings me to my third crucial point. Our entire region is locked in protracted battle against violent extremists. In the turmoil, a dark channel of inhuman commerce has formed. Along the route, everything is for sale. This harmful traffic undermines the peace and stability of the entire region. African nations will improve our economics so that our people do not risk their life to sweep the floors and streets of other nations. The fourth important aspect of this global trust and solidarity is to secure the continent's mineral-rich areas.
Nigeria's President and ECOWAS Chair Bola Tinubu was speaking there. Away from New York now, where the UN General Assembly is taking place, here in the South region, the Malian Army Command has taken stock of Sunday's attack on its camps in Lere by former rebels. The attack in the north of the country resulted in the death of at least 5 soldiers, and several others are still missing. The army also said it neutralized several ex-rebel fighters who are now described as terrorists. Abdullah Hassan report.
In its press release, the army began by describing the attacks on its camps in Lere as terrorist attacks. The attacks were carried out by fighters from the Coordination of Azawad Movements, CMA, a former rebel group that has been battling the Malian army in the north of the country for several weeks. The military command deplores the death of 5 soldiers and several others still missing. It has also reported material damage, including the destruction of a fighter plane. The Malian army has announced that in its response, it has neutralized around 30 terrorists, referring to fighters from CMA who are signatories to the peace agreement with Bamako. The army claims to have recaptured these camps in the locality of Lere after driving out the attackers. The Coordination for Azawad Movement, which claimed responsibility for the attacks, says it left on its own after the assaults. As a reminder, the Malian army is now engaged on a front against the ex-independence rebels of the CMA. These attacks on army camps by the former rebels are the latest to follow those in Burem and Ber in the north of the country. The CMA resumed clashes with the Malian army in September after months of tension with the government. According to analysts, it is a conflict for control of localities against the backdrop of the withdrawal of the United Nations mission in Mali. The MINUSMA is handing over its camps to the Malian army in localities controlled by the former rebels.
Abdullah Hassan filed that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. NEWSLINK continues.
A pressure group and mass movement in Ghana, the Fix the Country movement, is set to start a 3-day demonstration to storm the seat of government at Jubilee House on Thursday. The protest is aimed at decrying the general hardship in the country, economic mismanagement and corruption, among other things. WDR's Accra correspondent Atia Wimbila Lawson has the story.
Pressure group Fix the Country, in its efforts to hold the government accountable, has announced plans to hold a 3-day non-stop protest at the seat of Ghana's presidency. The organizers say they have chosen the birthday of the country's first president, Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, for the protest, ostensibly to give the event a revolutionary feel. A communication officer for the group, Solomon Bright, says they are embarking on the protest to take a strong stance against maladministration, social injustice and corruption in the country.
Youth unemployment has cast a shadow over our nation. We demand accountability transparency, and an end to the impunity that has allowed corruption to flourish.
Oliver Barker Vomowo, convener for the Fix the Country group, says they are logistically prepared for the 3-day continuous protest.
We have put in place every logistical arrangement that we can. For those who want to spend the night over, we are arranging for tents to be mounted. We are arranging for mosquito nets to be provided for people to sleep over and mattresses as well for people to stay over. The idea is to occupy the space for 3 days continuous. So it's not open in the morning, close and go home and come.
The governing New Patriotic Party has for some time now been at the receiving end of protests, labor agitations and incessant criticism over the economic conditions in the country. The president, however, maintains that he has done the best for Ghana. Reporting for NEWSLINK on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Atiewin Imbila Lawson in Accra.
Meanwhile, Ghana's Electoral Commission has denied allegations that it intends to disenfranchise voters in the ongoing limited voter registration process. The accusation was made earlier in the week by the opposition National Democratic Congress, led by its chairman, Asedun Ketia. The Election House, however, denies this claim. The ongoing exercise opened last week to register first-time voters ahead of the general elections next year. Tawfiq Abdul Nasser completes the story.
The limited voter registration process is now in its second week, scheduled to conclude on October 2. However, the exercise has encountered several setbacks, including equipment breakdowns and network failures. These issues led to a slow start in registrations during the initial phase. Consequently, the Commission has had to revise its approach, which has increased the daily number of registered individuals. Jane Mensah is the chairperson of the Electoral Commission.
This led us to revise our policy to allow for the use of both online and offline methods of registration. I'm happy to note that since the revision of this policy, the process of registration has been seamless and unhindered.
Despite efforts to rectify these challenges, the Commission said it has been accused by the National Democratic Congress, NDC, of engineering the breakdown of machines in their strongholds. These accusations were made by NDC Chairman Asedun Ketia. The Commission Chairperson Mensah, however, dismissed these allegations.
It is not in our interest as a Commission to disenfranchise any eligible voter. It is important to note that this will not be the only registration exercise before the 2024 election. We plan to institute continuous registration in all our district offices nationwide. In addition to that, we will identify difficult to access areas and undertake a mock-up registration of voters in those areas.
A prominent criticism against the Commission has been its decision to confine the registration to district offices, seen as disadvantageous to individuals located far from these district offices. Since the registration commenced, the Electoral Commission said it has registered more than 180,000 first-time eligible voters. The limited voter registration ends on October 2.
Tawfiq Abdul Nasser reporting there. We cross over now to Liberia, where the country begins its countdown to the October 10 elections. The Economic Community of West African State ECOWAS is calling for professional coverage of the elections. Josephine Nkrumah, the ECOWAS ambassador to Monrovia, stressed the importance of a balanced and objective media campaign during the start of a 2-day engagement conference. Local media and members of civil society organizations are in attendance. WDL's Ellington Pop in Monrovia has the rest of the story.
The event is intended to create a conducive atmosphere for the conduct of a peaceful electoral process in Liberia. The ECOWAS Commission Head on Democratic and Good Governance, Ebenezer Osofu Asedo, explained that the gathering seeks to build the capacity of the media and CSOs to detect fake news and misinformation during the elections.
We noticed that a lot is going on, a lot is being said. How to moderate what we are putting out to the electorate becomes very key.
For her part, ECOWAS Ambassador to Monrovia Joseph Nkrumah called on media practitioners to resist providing platforms to individuals who are bent on promoting hate speech and inciting statements.
We therefore are at a juncture where we must do everything to protect the peace and tranquility we have enjoyed as a nation since we signed our comprehensive peace accord.
In conclusion, Ambassador Josephine Nkrumah admonished the media in ensuring that the voices of all Liberians, irrespective of their status or political affiliation, are heard and adequately represented. For NEWSLINK on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Darlington Pogba in Monrovia.
You're listening to NEWSLINK on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasted on 94.9 FM Dakar and around the world on wadr.org and our partner stations. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Ahead of the February 2024 elections in Senegal, President Sall affirms commitment to a free and transparent presidential process. ECOWAS chairperson President Bola Tinubu reiterates beneficial cooperation with Africa in his inaugural speech at the UN. A pressure group in Ghana fixed the country to meet at the Jubilee House on Thursday for a three-day demonstration against poor governance and corruption. And still ahead in the news, debate of moratorium on the death penalty emerges among Gambians. We also have a guest interview segment, the press review, and sports update. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Don't forget you can listen to us live on wadr.org. Let's cross over now to the Gambia, where following the date of two policemen killed by an assailant on the outskirts of Banjul last week, the debate about a lift on a moratorium on the death penalty has emerged. The debate whether a person should be killed after a premeditated murder has dominated public discourse in recent days. Gambians are clearly divided on whether President Adama Barrow, who placed a moratorium on the death penalty in 2018, should lift the ban. Some Gambians spoke to WADR.
Yeah, definitely. For me, I think the moratorium should be partially lifted so that these deliberate killings can be stopped in this country. Because I think the people have been given chance that to get away with this law, but I think some people are not just for good. So I think the moratorium should be lifted and then to address killing.
It would definitely be a step in the wrong direction if we were to lift the moratorium on the death penalty, because I don't believe anybody who has killed somebody should be killed. You see, we should have a society where we can punish these individuals if at all they are beyond rehabilitation. And prison is important. It's about humanity. Sometimes you can make a mistake when you rule for somebody to be given the death penalty. And if they find out later on that somebody has been killed and they, were not the right person, then what do? You can't reverse their life. And I think that is a form of torture, killing somebody.
If anybody kills your fellow human being deliberately, the person should be killed. This is the only way I can say it will stop the killing in this country. Because some people just don't care. If they know that if they kill somebody, they will be in jail for life, they don't mind. They will do it because some people are heartless. But I think with the death penalty, people will take into action that, or take into caution that if they kill anyone, they can be killed. So I think this will address the rising rate of killing in the country.
In my opinion, if somebody kills another person, there are laws. Then the individual goes for life in jail. I think that would be much better than killing.
So yes, I think the death penalty should not be abolished. Yeah, I stand by that. But anyway, the person must be tried first. If found guilty of the crime that has been committed, then the law takes its course.
Some Gambians speaking there on the moratorium on the death penalty. Well, elsewhere, local authorities in the south of Côte d'Ivoire are on high alert after an infection of an unknown illness that killed 7 people. The same illness to have occurred in Niangbang resulted in the hospitalization of at least 59 people whose conditions are being monitored. Ogeberika tells us more.
Health officials in the south of Côte d'Ivoire confirmed the death of 7 people on Sunday in a village near Boaké due to an illness of unknown origin. 5 out of the victims died at the Boaké University Hospital and 2 in Niangbang, a village in the south. The village chief, Emmanuel Kwame Ngwasan, said the dead are between 5 and 12 years old, while a majority of those hospitalized at the hospital are children and adolescents. The symptoms exhibited by the disease-infected persons are vomiting and diarrhea. A resident of Nyangbang, the village where the disease had reportedly emerged, quoted other villagers as saying corn porridge was the cause of the contamination. 3 mothers who gave an account of the incident acknowledged that their children between the ages of 3 and 5 indeed consumed the porridge over the weekend. They all died from the infection. The government is, however, yet to comment on the development. Recall in February, 16 people lost their lives in Bokahankro, a village close to Boake, over a similar incident of contamination. While the government announced 16 casualties, the villagers claimed that a total of 21 people were killed. At the end of a state investigation, 2 people were sentenced by the Ivorian judiciary to 5 years in prison.
Ogeberika reporting there.
This is the newspaper review. Stay on top of the news. Get the most important stories with added insight and concise review.
This is the newspaper review.
We head back now to Banjul as we join Sankli Janko for the newspaper review.
Hello there and welcome to this edition of the Press Review, coming to you from Banjul, the Gambia. Let's begin with the Fourier newspaper, and this Fourier's lead story reads, Court summons drug squad chiefs to defying orders. That's the lead story on the Fourier newspaper. Deputies direct Justice Minister to provide Janet Commission Treasury receipts. And they urge the minister to do that as soon as possible. Please release Mamadou Sabali on bail over alleged social media commentary. Mamadou Sabali is the campaign manager of leading opposition United Democratic Party UDP. He's made some comments on Facebook. The authorities feel were a threat to security in the country, and he was called for questioning and later charged for this order by the police. Basay Area Council internal auditor alleges collectors split 1 ticket for 2 vendors. Wow. That is quite interesting there. UN urges authorities to prioritize well-being of women, girls against female genital mutilation, that is FGM. And interestingly, again, the National Assembly members direct submission of government's account in October. They're really ready for some accountability, aren't they? Let's move on to The Voice newspaper. And The Voice newspaper's lead story has to do with events around the University of the Gambia, who are supposed to be relocating to a new venue. And it reads, government rescinds decision to send students to Faraba campus willy-nilly. No end in sight to colleges' refusal to award attestations to students. That is according to the Minister of Basic and Secondary Education, Mopsy Claudiana Cole. Germany slashes residency citizenship rules. New dawn for aspiring citizens. Now let's move on to the Standard newspaper. And the Standard newspaper's lead story reads, NPP to engage opposition to end hostilities. UN expresses concern over attempts to reverse anti-FGM law. That's another story on the Standard newspaper. Please, Claire Sankare. The government spokesperson Ibrahim Sankare made some comments relating to the shooting in Jabang. And some of those comments actually did not go down well with the opposition. In fact, he's been accused of meddling in the investigation. However, the police in a statement claim whatever Sankare said, they are responsible because they provide those information to the government spokesperson. Sabali says he is state's #1 target. Sabali, like I said, is the campaign manager for United Democratic Party, UDP. And finally, this one is a story on Senegal's opposition leader, Ousmane Sonko, and it reads, Sonko's passive appeals to ECOWAS Court of Justice. I'm afraid that these are the major stories making the headlines on Gambian dailies, and it's back to you in the studios.
Indeed, Sankle Janko with a newspaper review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is a guest.
In our guest interview segment on this edition of the Bulletin, we take a look at the approval for the deployment of a contingent in Niger by the Burkinabe Transitional Legislative Assembly. Now, this approval has elicited reaction from experts who worry about the insurgent fight ongoing at the back of Burkina Faso and other junta-led countries like Mali. The mission of the soldiers will be to support the Nigerian junta should ECOWAS decide to use military force. Joe Ogbu is our guest and he's a security and risk analyst. He takes a look at this development.
The truth of the matter is that ECOWAS is a simple, toothless bulldog. And as I told you earlier on, they did not do their diplomatic assignments properly. Now that a lot of people have interceded and taught them how to do diplomatic relations, they have taught them the strategy of diplomatic relations. They have calmed down their nerves. I told you nothing was going to happen. And nothing happened. Yeah, in the case of Burkina Faso, I think they are jumping the gun because of their similarity in governance. They are trying to put a preventive measure so that ECOWAS too will not think about the same thing concerning them. And then they pack their thinking of ceiling. I don't think, to me, it has any political significance. All I'm saying is that these are young minds. These are people who have taken government by whatever means, and they think they want to be able to sustain the tempo. They want to be able to sustain their energy. I think that is simply what they are doing. But I understand the position of Niger.
Is Burkina Faso doing this in case they are not able to meet up with the timeline that they had given ECOWAS in returning to a democratically elected government?
No. The truth is that ECOWAS can take economic actions. ECOWAS can take social actions, but they cannot take military actions against this country. I am telling you the truth, because Nigeria will not be able to spearhead it because of the historical relationship that Nigeria has with Niger. It's not going to happen. The deployment, like I say, is a simple ploy. It's a toy in the hands of just people who are in power. Now, Burkina Faso, Niger cannot relinquish power at the time they have promised. That is a simple truth. They cannot relinquish power at that time. And nobody should envisage that they're going to relinquish power at that time. Yet again, ECOWAS cannot strike if Niger refuses to relinquish power to democratically elected president. In the first place, Nigeria cannot even champion the military power, military might against Niger, because Nigeria will be fighting the whole of the northern part of the country. You see that? And it is not possible. It is not possible. So Niger will not relinquish power. Burkina Faso is only doing that so that they can frighten ECOWAS, that's all.
Joe Ogbu is a security and risk analyst. Well, in Sport Update, the Confederation of African Football CAF has boosted the financial incentives for participating clubs in the just inaugural African Football League, which kicked off last week. 8 elite football clubs, including Nigeria Premier Football League champions Eyimba, have been selected as pioneers for the competition. CAF, in an announcement, revealed an increase in cash rewards for the team that will be competing in the tournament. Instead of the initial planned $500,000 participation fee, all participating team will now receive $900,000, according to a media report. And finally, in cricket, South Africa captain Laura Wadr said the inception of equal pay for the country's men and women senior team is a very exciting step forward and gives players a safety net. Cricket South Africa announced in August that there would be gender parity between the teams from the start of the women's tour of Pakistan, which began on the 1st of September. And we've come to the end of this edition of NewsLink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Yas Bilimu and Mustafa Sek, who have been supporting technically. Let's continue the conversation on Twitter, Instagram at WDL News, and Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. I am Imo Edit. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to NewsLink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newsmi FM 94.0, and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County. For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.